in Russia, Miss Kэtrin Alpay. She is also head of economic and cultural departments of the and it's a great pleasure for us all, for me personally, that Miss Kэtrin Alpay, who is also a very skillful expert in Philippine culture, especially in the cinematography, has found some time to share her knowledge with us. And also let me thank you, dear guests, for coming, and I hope that some of the guests are already online, and we are grateful for you too for coming here or for joining us. And without further ado, please let me share the floor with Ms. Kэtrin Alpay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Katya, who shares my name. My name is Kэtrin Alpay. I'm a Vice-consul and Third Secretary at the Philippine Embassy in Moscow. It is my pleasure and my honor to meet all of you. And that is where the formality ends, because we are here to enjoy cinema. We are here to enjoy Philippine films. I'd like to start this lecture with a challenge to make it interactive for everyone. What do you know about Philippine cinema?
Nothing.
Nothing. Thank you for your honest answer, madam. May I know your name? Yes.
Allah.
Ala.
Oh.
Ala, I can promise you that after this more or less 1 hour, you will know something about the Philippine cinema. But more than knowing, you will feel something about it. My goal is not only to introduce an overview of Philippine cinema, but to introduce a love for it. Philippine cinema has a lot of heart. It is made by one of the world's known people who work very well in entertainment industry. We're very proud of our entertainment culture because Filipinos are the best singers in the world. Can I claim that, Vida?
That's right.
Oh, I'm joined by the way, I am joined by our cultural attaché, Vida Cara. Please stand up. Our very beautiful cultural attaché who joins me in celebrating this opportunity to speak with people here in Moscow who may not be exposed to Philippine or Asian films as much as you need to be. But I definitely guarantee you need to be, because to discover Philippine films is also to discover the Filipino spirit. Basically, I would like to be able to show in a Philippine film some links in YouTube that are accessible. Okay? Because, of course, after this class, can I say, after this special lecture, I encourage you to search more in YouTube about Philippine films and try to watch. Some of them are available online, and some of them actually are available at the yearly held Moscow International Film Festival. How many of you here have gone to the recent Moscow International Film Festival? Oh, probably Vika,
Hala also.
Okay. How many, take a guess, how many Filipino films were at the last Moscow International Film Festival? Can I have a raise of hands? 1 Filipino film, 2, 3,
5.
There were 4. Wow. Okay, guys, you're lying to me. You have been to the film festival. Because the Filipino films there, we're very proud of them. They're some of the best, and we could say that even in the Philippines, where film technology is not as sophisticated as Hollywood, we produce quality films, and we produce films that matter not only to us in the Philippines, but to everyone in the world. I'd like to introduce one contemporary film that I hope you had a chance to watch in the Film Fest, but if not, there are other opportunities to see it. Let me see. There. So this has an English.
Pero isang araw, you meet someone.
And for a while, time just stops.
Welcome, Dream.
Sino nagpapabili?
Hello, Joy.
Paano nalaman ng ganun? Ako yata nagbigay. Nagtatrabaho ako. Huwag mo akong huluhin.
Mas nakaka-intriga pala pag pinapalimuhan. Kung sa susunod, pag ayaw ko babae, sabihan mo agad na kailangan para matakot sa kalumayo.
I love you.
Di kaso gusto kita eh. So sorry, I don't love you. Di talaga maubusan ang gagawin.
Kaya ka talaga nung ginagawa sa buhay mo? Oo pa. I love you.
I don't love you eh. Dito na ako. Alam mo, Tol, pinapaalala ko lang, aalis yung Tol. Paano kung mapakita ko sa kanya na hindi niya kailangan umalis para magkaroon ng magandang buhay?
Hindi pwede magkaroon ng as.
Ay, hindi pwede.
Eh, ngawal pa akong future. Para sa pamilya ko. Hindi kita pwede mahalin.
Then I'll take whatever is being given.
Star Cinema presents, for the first time, Catherine Bernardo and Alden Richards in a film by Cathy Garcia Molina.
Ang binibigay ko sa enough to make you stay.
Ginawa mo yun para pilitin akong piliin ka.
Kung mahal mo, bakit hindi ako piliin mo, Joy?
Kung mahal mo ako, bakit pinapapili mo ako?
Hello, Love, Goodbye. July 31 is
So that's one of the films in the Moscow International Film Festival. Hello, Love, Goodbye. What is your impression of the film? Can I get some audience reactions before I continue my lecture? Anyone?
It sounds pretty romantic.
Thank you. It was. It's very romantic film. Anyone else would like to react about the film?
Actually, I can.
Yes.
I think that this film is pretty romantic too. I really like the scene. I really like the composition and the motion of camera.
Thank you.
And the soundtrack is also very good.
Thank you.
There are many of the soundtracks there actually, and each of them are very, very pleasant, I would say.
What is your name again, my dear?
Daria, your name?
My name is Daria.
Daria.
Daria, Dasha.
Dash. Thank you, Dasha, and thank you, Ala, for your impressions. And of course, Katya, who actually, we can proudly say, was involved in the Russian translation of this film. I'm very glad that we have an expert in Philippine language who can convey masterful translations of Philippine films, because it's very important for language to be conveyed properly. And the Filipino language, and please confirm it, Dr. Katya, that the Filipino language is really hard to translate.
I wouldn't say that it's really hard to translate, but I think that to translate well, you need to at least get some information about culture and to know some nuances of the culture, because otherwise it will be a plain foreign translation of a person absolutely who absolutely doesn't know anything about the Philippines. So, because for instance, Filipinos, they are very creative about wordplays. They come up with some play on words really spontaneously. And in this film, it's shown very well, because actually there are many play on words there, and it is not unfortunately reflected in the English translation, but at the MIFF, at this Moscow Film Festival, there was a translation in Russian, and there were some sparkles of this Philippine humor and play on words. And of course, for a translator of Filipino, it's important to know such things and to be attentive to them. Otherwise, the film will be flatter than it is. And this film actually, if you let me add something, at the Moscow International Film Festival, there is a tradition that before each film introduced to the Russian audience, there is an expert in the cinematography, a real expert, like from basic, I don't know, big who shares their impressions from the professional point of view about this or that film. And there was a senior researcher of GITIS as an expert there who said before screening the film that actually he has not long seen such professional shooting, especially the close shots. According to him, there is no such skills of close shots in America as it is shown in this Philippine film, Hello, Love, Goodbye. There are really very many close shots, and in each of them, either the main hero or the main female act very naturally. And that's what he pointed out, that's what he liked as a professional. And as you rightly pointed out, Dasha, the music is very nice. And as Catherine said, Filipinos are very musical. That's why, for instance, in this film, as well as many others, I would say, there are many nice melodies, many soundtracks, and each of them is very attractive. So this is what I can just add. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kanya, for your reaction. Indeed, there are many details that we can think about this film to discuss more deeply. But of course, the point of this lecture is an overview of film. I'd just like to point out that contemporary Filipino films follow many, let's say, pop culture references, and we have many influences from K-dramas. And before K-dramas, there were the Spanish telenovelas from Mexico. Anyone heard the movie Marimar? That's a very important film that influenced generations of Filipinos in the 90s. And of course, after that, the Hallyu wave affected Philippines. So everyone knows this in the Philippines. The Korean heart, you know, say love. But in the Philippines, I think that love as a theme, it's timeless. It doesn't mean that we were adopting only themes from foreign films into our culture. We integrate our own sentiments, our own particular themes based on Philippine circumstances. And key to contemporary films in the Philippines is the Philippine diaspora. Filipinos have a rich, deep, extensive, deeply scarring colonial history. We carry the seeds of our forefathers, seeds in their hearts that were planted by the colonial powers. We carry them until now. And it becomes part of the dialogue and the storytelling, the narrative of the Philippine nation. Colonialism created a divide between rich and poor, the landed elite and the landless. And that's why a lot of the landless, which is like more than 90% of Filipinos, maybe even 99% of Filipinos, what happened to them? They sought their fortunes abroad. And this triggered the movement, the migration of Filipinos. So that anywhere in the world, anywhere you can find some sort of a human life, there will be traces of Filipinos. I'm serious. Can you believe that has anyone here been to Yakutsk?
Have you?
I've probably been there 5 times. 4 times for work and 1 time for pleasure. 4 times for work because before the pandemic, every year we had to go back there because there were 80 Filipinos there in Yakutsk. Probably the coldest city in the world. And in Yakutsk, Filipinos are slowly influencing their environment because they love it there, and some are there for almost a decade already, and you know, they influence the people that they meet. They teach them how to cook Filipino food. They greet them with Filipino words. Kumusta? Hello. Mahal kita. I love you. And goodbye. Paalam. There are many themes in the Philippine cinema about transience, movement, the passage of people, passage of time, that became part of our awareness, our self-awareness. But there was a time in Philippine cinema where everything was a bit more static. I'm talking about the beginning of Philippine cinema and the beginning of electricity in the Philippines. Because without electricity, you cannot watch movies. Let's try to watch one such film, Tunay na Ina. The full film is actually in YouTube. Tunay, real, ina, mother. Tunay na ina, real mother. So the introductions back then were longer, of course, because it follows the format of classical films, in the beginning of the era of films. Notice the attire of the Filipina. This is called the Filipiniana. This is a barok. Let me pause it there. It doesn't have subtitles because I wanted you to pay attention to the words, to the sounds of the words. Let me go to a different part of it. And pay attention once again to the sounds you hear. How they speak.
Wala akong kasama kang lalaki. Siya po'y pinaglaban lamang. Ito ko na masukong lalaki. Kaya bakit kayo iwanan sa nila ng bata? Bakit hindi pa kayo iwanan sa nila? Ako'y kasalukuyang maninimpihan. Dito ang pinagkakautahan ko. At ang batang na utang ko ay sa nabubog sa bibig ng aming anak.
Okay. What did you notice about the way people spoke? Anyone? Do you have an impression of how people spoke in this film?
Sounds rather poor, but maybe someone could say about melody or intonation. Have you noticed anything?
Sounds like birds singing.
Thank you. What's your name? Nastya. That's right. It's precisely right. A lot of non-Filipinos, the moment that they hear Filipinos speaking, they describe them as birds singing. Because Filipino is a mellifluous language. The intonation is like singing, reminiscent of perhaps the sound of waves also. Not all Filipinos actually live by the sea. But even so, Filipinos who live deep inland, they are influenced by this wave-like intonation. And it is a charming kind of way of speaking. It attracts a lot of audiences who are curious about Philippine films in the past. And Tunay na Ina, this was made in 1939. It was not the first Filipino film. Let me show you one of the first Filipino films. It is called Dalagang Bukid. What is Dalagang Bukid? It can be a fish. Milk fish. But Dalagang Bukid is a type of fish in the Philippines, but it is also a phrase that means Dalaga is virgin. Bukid is farm. Maiden of the farm. Dalagang Bukid. Let me put it up quickly so you will see a bit of it. This is the source material. This is the play. Yeah, Philippines first.
earlier than Tunay na Ina, or it's more modern?
Dalagang Bukid was made earlier than Tunay na Ina.
20s?
Actually, it was a silent film and it was made in 1919. But unfortunately, I cannot find the link for Dalagang Bukid. We had the link for the 1905 film, which is this one. And it is more like a documentary. And it concerns embroidery in the Philippines. There is something that we can talk about this film. True to silent films, it just has a description of clips. The film is called Luzon Lingerie, and it was made in 1905. So this film is more of a documentary because it is a silent film, and the attention is given to exoticism of Philippines. The work that is being done here, the embroidery of is part of Philippine culture, and even until now, this is actually done. We have industries of weaving, and we have products. We have products of woven fabrics in the Philippines, all over the island. One of our most attractive fabrics is called piña, which is made from pineapple fibers. And there's hybrid versions of that called abaca piña, but there is a technical term for it. And abaca is a type of grass or weed, and it is strengthened with this pineapple fibers, and it makes a very, very good attire. I hope that there will be an opportunity for us to see more samples of piña fabric, just so you have a reference, because in later movies, they appear as part of enhancing the beauty of Philippine women in Philippine film. So piña fabric, Philippines. This is what it looks like. So it's delicately embroidered. Piña fabric. It is actually an exported fabric also. So this is a classic Filipino attire. It is almost see-through. In the Philippines, the convenience of the attire is mostly due to the weather because it is very humid. I would like to ask, I'm very curious, who here has gone to the Philippines already? Has anyone? Except Dr. Katya, I know she has. Vika, not yet, right?
Oh,
To the
she's going
Philippines.
to.
Go.
Yes, I'm going.
You will be able to wear a piña.
And buy it.
Yeah, and what?
You can buy it as a shawl. I noticed that here in Russia there is a type of shawl that is very close to piña, but it is made out of wool. Yeah. Our fabric is a bit more stiff. So let's go back to films. Let's put aside fashion for now. There are several golden ages in films, in Philippine films. The first golden age came about. In the 1950s. So in the 1950s, major Philippine production studios produced a slew of artistic and notable films, and some of them have been internationally acclaimed. Here I'd like to highlight one such film which has been in the Biennale. Do you know the Biennale, which is, I think it's in Rome, in Italy. Genghis Khan.
That would be a film of 50s, right?
Genghis Khan is in 1952. Okay. it's quite hard to find it in YouTube, I believe. But if I will be able to share the link later, I will do so. Apologies, I wasn't able to prepare all the links in advance due to being extremely busy with the presentation materials. But in any case, we will be able to find them in YouTube, and then after this lecture, I'll be able to share all the links of the films discussed with Professor Katya.
Or with the head of the Southeast Asian Club of
We'll publish it
Institute of Innovation and
Thank
African
you.
Studies.
Yes, this
Thank you.
is also to make sure that you better watch Philippine films after this, especially the contemporary films, just to get a taste of our Philippine culture. Maybe it will attract you to other matters in our culture, such as fashion and food. So after Genghis Khan, 1952, after the first golden age of Philippine film, we also have a second golden age of Philippine film, which was in the late 70s. Maybe this one, I will be able to show this because this is a very important film for us. And I think this has been discussed in lectures previously by Dr. Katya. There you go. This is the official. So himala is the Philippine word for miracle. In Philippine films, religion is a very sensitive topic. At the same time, that is sensitive and controversial. Some of the best films have religious themes.
Diyos na hindi gagawa ng ilang para lamang magtakpan ang pagkukulang sa pananampalataya ng mga tao. Nakita ko ang birhen! Nakita ko ang birhen! Nagsasalita ang birhen! Ayun ang birhen!
Birhen, referring to the Virgin Mary.
Hindi na napusulan, natataman, hindi pa tinusukan ng mga kami. Pinagbibinan niya sila doon pala. Tinutulungan namin sila. Marami din nasulat, pero wala kang kaibigan. Ikaw ang may sakit, hindi ang mga tao.
So among the images we saw in Himala, we saw images of faith, that religious tableaus that have some sort of parallel with religious paintings. For example, the crying ladies in veils. We have religious persons wearing icons, holding rosaries. So it is literally a movie about faith. But there is also another underlying theme here, which is, it is also a movie about poverty. Faith plays a strong influence in many Philippine narratives, even outside of film. Faith and also poverty. There is actually, in the third golden age, which is in the late 90s, we have a director who is world-renowned, Brillante Mendoza, and he specializes in stories that portray Philippine reality, the impoverished Filipino society, and the emotions that run through characters that have this innate struggle against poverty, injustice, the unfairness of the world. Let me show you one of his films. Palawan, that is a very beautiful island in the Philippines. And we can have a dark side. Abu Sayyaf is a terrorist group in the Philippines. So based on this film trailer that we see, the Philippines has a multiplicity of religions. We have a policy of religious tolerance, and there are many faiths that have found their home in the Philippines, including the Russian Orthodox faith. So there is even a Russian Orthodox community there. And there is even recently a Filipino ordained as a Russian Orthodox monk. In the Philippines, the Roman Catholic faith is the primary faith, but there are also Muslim communities. Mostly the Muslim communities are in the south of the Philippines, the island of Mindanao. And this also reflects how the colonial powers have spread their influence in the Philippines. Most of the Philippines, if I can put up the map quickly. So most of the Philippines here in the north and in the center observe the Roman Catholic faith, and the Muslim communities are in the south. But of course, the Muslim communities have further migrated north. So there are big mosques even in the capital in Manila, and there are also other faiths there. Faith is a powerful tool of communication in Philippine films, not only for foreign audiences. Actually, right now we are also in a journey of discovery to appreciate more our multi-faith society in the Philippines. That's why Muslim Islam as a theme in Philippine films communicates not only to foreign audiences, it's actually intended to communicate to Filipinos. Because one of the challenges of Philippine identity is that in Philippine culture, these islands also represent a divided heart of the Filipinos. Each island can be their own kingdom. It's very hard to unite peoples who are naturally divided by water. And it is a struggle for us that we continue to improve on. That's why media is very important to us. Media is one of the communication tools for how we as a Philippine nation can discover our identity, gel together, and present more enriched culture to the rest of the world. Even so, even now, we are still trying to find our identity, trying to discover ourselves, even as we promote ourselves to the world, even as we promote our culture to the world. We are continuously trying to find ourselves, to to identify ourselves, to even reinvent ourselves as a Philippine nation. So these films that I have shown, and more actually, I would like to very much share with you all. The time is very, very limited for me to present everything. But to wrap up, I want to reiterate what are the points of Philippine films that I want you to take into consideration the next time that you watch. So the Philippine films have great influence with our colonial history, the divide of rich and poor, of the landed elite and the landless, the diaspora, the migration story of Filipinos, the struggle of faith, of recognition, of identity. These are all key themes for us. And when we communicate them to other peoples, other nations, I believe that there is a commonality that makes our films very palatable, very attractive to other cultures, because even as we discover ourselves, I know that other cultures are also trying to do that. We're trying to learn more about ourselves. That's why film is a very powerful media, because it is not only the word, the spoken, the sound, it's also the expressions of the face, it is also the emotions, the biases, the prejudices. We are all in constant discussion with our own selves about who we are. And I hope that in telling you about some of these films of the Philippines, you will find that you have learned a little bit more about yourself also. Thank you very much.
Can we have some questions
Yes.
from the audience? Would you like to ask something, or you want to know more, to get some detail about something in particular that you've come across with the Philippines or with the Philippine films? Anything you would like to ask? Yes, please.
Yes.
Can we find any Philippine films in Russian cinema?
Yes, but not all the time. For now, I've been here in Moscow for almost 6 years. Not speaking Russian, I'm sorry. But in that time, I've seen only the Philippine films that are in the Moscow International Film Festival. Some directors of renown have visited Moscow in the past. Lav Diaz, I think Brillante Mendoza, and he was also a jurist, or the head of the jury for one such festival. And Kathy Molina has already come. Yeah. Kathy Molina Garcia, who directed Hello, Love, Goodbye, the first film that I hope you will remember the most, Hello, Love, Goodbye. So she came also to Moscow already. So it's not so common to see the Philippine films.
Not too much.
Yes,
Yeah.
you know, Catherine, and thank you very much for your question. Maybe that could become a point of negotiations between the Philippine embassy and the Russian cultural sector, because, as you know, there is a large niche now in our cinemas, because we cannot buy American films, but those most high quality films made in the Philippines could really be of interest, in my opinion, to the Russian audience. So maybe you could offer it to our Ministry of Culture, and maybe since they are already buying Indian films, they could also think about the Philippines, at least those blockbusters that have been featured at the Moscow International Film Festival and have got such a high acclaim from the Russian experts. Maybe that could be a nice offer to our Russian party.
Well, thank you for the suggestion, Professor Katya, because that is part of the efforts of my section,
Yes.
of our cultural attaché, who will be here long after I am gone, because we are actually trying to promote more Philippine films to come here. And our ambassador, Igor Baiden, he's very active in promoting Philippine culture and Philippine film. He has tons of ideas of trying to get Philippine films here, trying to expose the Russian audience to great Philippine films. I'm actually hesitant to expound on this idea, but I would like to say also, Philippine films are not only about the great ones, but there are also popular ones because most Philippine audiences, they don't actually get to watch the great Philippine films outside of 1 month in the year, December Film Festival. Why? They are the Philippine award-winning films. They are mostly shown abroad, and sad to say, they are indie films. They are low-budget films that are more attractive to their foreign audiences, and the most Filipinos will find them boring and will just sleep in the cinema. So, yeah, it's part of what I'm saying, that why are Filipinos struggling to find their identity? Because they're not as exposed to media, a broad scope of media, as they should be. Most Filipinos get most of their media inputs from 1 or 2 television channels, the radio drama, and these films that are mostly comedy, very vaudeville-like, but unlike with Bollywood that has a lot of dancing, singing people, these Filipino comedy films, they're more on cracking jokes, slapstick comedy. You might find most of that online also, because Filipinos, they love to crack jokes. Filipinos love to crack jokes, but it's very, how do you say this, full of inside jokes. You have to be a Filipino to really appreciate Filipino jokes. So, yeah.
Another question about Himala, which I'm trying to find and to see. Could you at least, since we haven't seen it, all of us here, at least give us a clue to the film? Yes, it's about faith, also maybe about superstitions, right? Filipinos are very superstitious, many of them. Maybe something else, because it looks like the end is tragical.
Yes.
Sorry for spoiler, but it's just my guess. Maybe you could say something else about the theme and insights of this film.
Thank you for the question. I will not try to put up the YouTube video anymore. There is one with subtitles. I will leave it to you to watch the film, look for it, because I will just leave this impression on you about it. So my answer to your question is, the iconic line in the film Himala, which is miracle, is that walang himala. There are no miracles. The movie has as one of its major themes like miracle workers, people who are touched by God. In the Philippines, there is a faith healing culture, and some people, they would rather go to church than to the doctor. So there is Vida can talk more about that, because in her province there are faith healers. Maybe not faith healers, but witch doctors. So there's also this is a partly folk Catholicism. Folk Catholicism has infected parts of the Philippines that are, how do you say this, locked in Catholics, saradong Katoliko. So they are locked into a certain faith, but parts of pagan culture have been infused into their practice of faith. So for example, they like to go to church 9 nights in a row, because at the 9th night before Christmas, they will get their wish to come true for the next year. They like to pray 10 decades of the rosary, because each decade represents their sacrifice to ask God to heal their sick relative. So it's more like the theme here that the movie is trying to tackle speaks about how people in the Philippines put too much on faith and not on their work. But then, as they say, God helps those who help themselves, right? So that's one of the major themes of the movie. Yes,
I
Dash.
wanted to ask you a question. Firstly, I want to say thank you for your lecture. It was really interesting. And secondly, during all the lecture, we have seen different kinds of genres like comedian, romantic, dramatic. But what genre is most preferred for the Philippine audience?
What does the Philippine audience prefer?
Yeah.
The
What genre? What kind of movie?
The genre that many Filipinos prefer, rom-coms, romantic comedies. That's like, there's this phrase in Filipino, patok sa tequila. Patok sa tequila is box office hit. So the box office hits are usually about love and laughter. Filipinos like to laugh in the face of disaster. There's no greater tragedy than being heartbroken, so they like to laugh about that. So, well, I'm not kidding about it. These are the domestic audience preferences, and it's actually what generates a lot of income for the Philippine film industry. So most of Philippine films focus on that, on love tropes, exploring that. If they're not focusing on that, they're focusing on violence, terrorism, kidnapping, drugs, these kinds of illegal trades, human trafficking. These are very somber themes, but somehow, someway, there is one film that was shown in the recent Moscow International Film Festival. I couldn't recall the title. It was too violent.
Yes.
I erased it from my memory.
Walker, yes, thanks.
Walker. And Walker refers to those ladies of the night walking in the streets after dark. So Walker was such a film, and I think that one of my conversations with Dr. Katya about it, because of course for foreign audiences, such violence, such explicit themes, they're supposed to talk about social situations, right? And ethics, values. But for Filipinos, for me, for example, a personal take on what it means to watch Walker, it made me angry. It made me angry because there is the shock. There is also the recognition that
Huwag ka matakot. Walang gusto rito.
So these artists are already grown women now, but back then they were the cutest celebrities in Philippine television. So Camille Prats and Angelica Panganiban, right? Who just gave birth.
What is the decade of the film?
This one is 1990s. In the 90s. This is in the 90s. So, what does it say about there's even another one, Tagalog film, Magic Kingdom. So this follows a Western story, and then there's another one called Magic Kingdom. This is also a very popular film. Oh, the whole film is actually huge. So this is also a film that is targeting children, and at that time, many Filipino youth, they are glued to the TV screen for the afternoon and early evening before the parents take over the TV to watch the news or basketball. So that's like the typical Filipino life. So a lot of the Filipino children of the 90s, early 80s and 90s, up to the early 2000s, we have like a shared experience. We watch the same television shows, we watch the same movies, and when we go to school, we talk about them. So it was a very limited opportunity to experience media also, because there were not many productions of Philippine films. This is also partly because of money. And there were also periods of history in the Philippines where there just wasn't that much freedom or economic opportunity to make good films or films that are approachable to our domestic audiences. So they catered more to the foreign audience that can pay the cash, you know. So that's it. Just another question.
Can you please tell us more or something about the Filipino series industry? I mean, is it as developed and popular as the film industry? And could you recommend us some series that are worth seeing?
Series, Philippine series. First of all, if you want a Philippine series, I can only speak about what my generation loves. Because right now, I think the series have evolved because of K-pop. But before that time, there were like, si Amor Powers, Pangako Sa'yo. Pangako is promise. Pangako Sa'yo. My promise to you. And I think there was also exportation of this series. Subtitles.
Catherine, did you watch Mulawin or Encantadia?
Yes, that's my generation. So, but first drama,
Okay.
then fantasy, because that was a very special era. I think it wasn't repeated after Mulawin and Encantadia and there's another one, the one with magic. So let's watch a bit of Pangako Sa'yo. So, this Jody Santa Maria, right? I'm confirming with our cultural attaché. She's a very, very popular actress. Her face is really very serene. This is a typical family tableau or family in the Philippines.
Sige na, last
They
na,
sleep
last
on
na
this
lang.
kind of
Uy, bangon.
mat
Bangon.
rather than a mat.
Diba, ganyan ang mukha mo? Parang naiiyak ka.
Kasi naman, Amori, labi nga yung beses na natin inuulit to, inaantok na ako.
Sorry na, last na lang.
Last na, promise yan ha.
Ready about to do.
Nasarapan sa binalayo.
Oo nga,
Oo.
kinilig daw siya. Para daw siyang nasa langit. Tapos yung Diego sumigaw. Sabi niya, uy, natikman ko na to, kilala ko yung gumawa nito.
Tapos na lang ni Eduardo kung sino.
Oo nga, tapos sabi niya doon sa kapatid ko, kilala mo ko tol. I'll marry her. Diyos ko, tawa-tawa.
Sinabi talaga, I'll marry her?
Oo nga.
Bakit di mo sinabi yung pangalan ko? Kilala ko ni Diego.
Ay, di ba nga nagkakagulo na? Yung nangyari nga sa minan, di ba?
So that is typical sisterly conversation. And we were talking about a guy who she has a big crush on. But I think that you will find these episodes in YouTube and with English subtitles conveniently because it's really a classic series and it's very powerful. But it has also how do you say this? Telenovela tropes, so Mexican drama, you know, clash between the haciendero and people who work in the hacienda. The hacienda is like a estate where people are farming or mining or whatever is the industry there. So it is a classic tale of the poor daughter of a farmer and the son of the rich owner of the land, but it has very many Filipino values embedded into it. So they made it very interesting, and it's also very empowering for women to watch this, really, because it's all about the girl getting rich and you know, getting the love of her life, but then deciding she doesn't need a man to be successful. So that's it. And we have of course this fantasy series muna with this was popular in the early 2000s. Where's the and it's about fantasy. So in the Philippines, we have
Tawid at ipapanganak na siyang magiging pag-asa ng lahat.
so there was a time in Philippine television that comic books became a great influence for domestic audiences. And one of the concepts that was fleshed out is the story called Mulawin, which is about, it honors Philippine eagles. Because Philippine eagles is an endangered species, and then from there they spun a story about bird-like people who have wings. And it's not obvious here because she's not there. So that's it. So it's kind of it looks kind of cheesy, right? Because of the production quality, and that's one of the challenges of Philippine television series is working on a budget. But this Mulawin, it's very easy to fall in love with the themes because they actually flesh out the story very well. It's just that you have to bear with the technology of the time. Sorry, we're not as sophisticated as the series you can find in Hollywood right now, but we try. We have some series that are available in Netflix. This is my time to plug. There is this movie that's coming out, but it is in Netflix, so boo-hoo, how can we access? But it's called To Russia with Love. And it was produced by a Philippine production company, but it's all about Russia.
Is it ready already?
November 1. So, well, tell your friends who have Netflix access. Okay, watch it for me. We'll try our best to find a copy here. But yeah, it's coming out on November 1. And it's produced by a company in the Philippines. So watch out for our post on it on our Facebook page. So any other questions?
Actually, we have some questions from our online audience
Wow.
in chat.
Hi! Yeah.
The first one is, which movie best reveals the culture of Philippines and its mentality, and what could you recommend?
If you're talking about culture and mentality of Filipinos, then each golden age, the golden age of the 1950s, the golden age of the 1970s, and the third one in the 90s, they have different mentality, different atmosphere, different attitudes of Filipinos. I think that for the first golden age, it was about displaying classical beauty and the classical culture of Philippines, including the songs, classic songs of Filipinos. It was more static. Towards the second and third golden age, they were more realistic in themes, and they were down and dirty, if I may say so. There were very sexual, explicit films that were actually internationally acclaimed. But of course, they dealt with quite harsh topics like fraternity hazing, rape, prostitution. This is still part of the continuous journey of the Filipino in discovering their own identity, as I said previously.
Yeah, we have some more questions, and the next one is, what are the most popular Filipino films? I think they were asking about like the domestic audience. What are the most popular films among the domestic audience?
I
Not
showed
the
some of
genre,
them.
but not the genre, but like maybe specific films.
I showed some of them a while ago, like Himala. Hello Love Goodbye actually has a strong following, although it has mixed reviews about its ending. I will not spoil you about the ending. But I think that for me, what I consider to be popular films in the Philippines, Brillante Mendoza's work, Love Diaz. So these names, these directors, they've created genres in the Philippine film industry, and they are very much acclaimed in the Cannes Film Festival, Venice Biennale, Venice Film Festival. These are juggernauts in our film industry, And Love Diaz, he's known for making very long films, like 10 hours, 20 hours.
Slow movie, they call it.
Yeah, you will already be happy to watch a film of his that is 4 hours.
Yes.
That's like short already. But I think because they are exploring also a different style of narrative and appreciation of films, trying to break barriers. For domestic audience, films that are actually popular, the only time that you can see they are popular, there's only one time in the year that Filipino films are really broadcasted to the masses, and it's in December. And what turns out to be popular films are, like I said a while ago, like vaudeville comedies, like pwede ba yun? Benta ka kaya?
I think Love Diaz's films, it's what we call art house films.
Art house.
Yeah.
So
if you like art house film, then it will be a good idea to watch some of his films.
Regal Films, that's very influential. So slapstick comedy. This is very how do you say? This is very common in popular films in Philippine cinema. If not slapstick comedy, there is also action films. And that's where this great celebrity called Fernando Poe Jr. That's where he comes in. Let me just this little girl is now a grown person. This is a very old film, Pedro.
Akala ko kasi kapag dahil ka na ko, pagbubuntisan ko, ayaw mo.
So, for example, action films, they're very popular in Philippine cinema. So, it's usually has a lot of these fake punches. so in Philippine films, action films are really legendary. Filipinos, they already like people like Steven Seagal, whom I know is very popular in Russia. So Filipinos like Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, they all know these guys. And then they have their own heroes in Philippine film. And these heroes in Philippine film, they have these very interesting action moves. So for example, this FPJ, he has this 1-2 punch. Every film he does, he has this 1-2 punch. And there's another legendary action film where one Philippine hero, he uses a knife to cut a bullet in half while it is being shot at him. So they like to exaggerate. Philippine audiences their fancies are tickled, their minds are tickled by these exaggerations of fantasy and action.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. What do you think stops Filipino films from becoming popular worldwide?
Mainstream. I think that first of all, money makes the world go round. So this is the film industry very much influenced by who you know, who can distribute their films worldwide, and if there is a willing audience to watch it. Because if there is no willing audience to watch it, paying audience to watch it, then there is no film. Simple as that. A project can live only as long as there is interest in it. Why other cultures may have possibly broke through that barrier. Like for example, Korean films. They're being recognized now internationally and by the Oscars even. And the stories there are quite realistic. They make you think. They're very intellectual, which is like you would think most audiences wouldn't appreciate. So, right? Philippine films, I think that for as much that we are proud of our communication prowess, like we are able to communicate well in English, We're able to relate to a lot of cultures. Filipinos are everywhere in the world. There is still that cultural gap that we have to cross so that our themes can be truly universal. I think that there is already attention given to some of the Philippine films that have crossed that gap, but not as much attention as could be given. Because, as I said a while ago, most Philippine films that really make success in foreign audiences, they are targeting foreign audiences, and the domestic audience, they're left behind. So there should be a synergy to that, so that quality films are appreciated not only by foreigners but also by Filipinos themselves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me ask one question. It's about the future of the Philippine films. So, what is, in your opinion, their future? What is the potential, and how they are going to develop?
Thanks for that question. I'd like to say that Filipinos are part of the Hollywood film industry. Number one, you can't have a Hollywood movie without a single Filipino in the production team. That's just how many we are, how present we are in all media internationally. It's just that we are not in the limelight. But I am hopeful that with the skills that we are learning in exploring and in supporting other film industries, we're able to consolidate that in the future so that these talents, they come home and they contribute to Philippine film. We just really need to convince our audience to, support the industry with money. We need to infuse our industry, the arts and culture industry of the Philippines, with more substantive support. I'm not talking about only money, but I'm talking about policies that can protect artists. And we actually saw a lot of gaps during the COVID-19 pandemic that really had the artists leave temporarily the industry because they had no choice. There were no theaters, there was no films showing, there were no shows, no performances, and this is a vulnerability that we hope that will be addressed with continuous discussion and policy making by our government. Yes.
Can you tell, please, are there any popular reality TV shows in Philippines?
Reality. We have a different kind of reality TV from Korea and Japan, which is, I think, like super popular in the internet. But I am very proud to say that our reality shows, they're more like noontime shows. I think, is there like an equivalent here in Russia of
Reality shows?
Noontime show?
I can't say because I don't think I quite understand what the noontime show is.
I think it is. It started for us in, I think, the 70s or 80s, and it's basically when people are sitting down to eat a meal during lunch, they will turn on the TV and something must come out, right? So they invented the noontime show in the Philippines, and one of that is Itbulaga. If you're talking about other kinds of formats of reality TV, for example, like Survivor, we had that for a time in Philippines, Survivor. I think Survivor Russia actually shot in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, previously. I think at least 1 or 2 seasons they shot in Philippines. Survivor, the equivalent of Survivor here in Russia. So, but what kind of reality are you talking about? The Kardashians, for example, that kind of reality TV.
How about love reality TV? Love reality shows.
Love.
You mean for love? Comedy?
No, I think matchmaking.
People come to the show
Ah.
that you love.
Did
Like
we ever
marriage?
have? No, I think no. I think that Filipinos, there's a certain level of conservatism.
Yes.
Uh,
In personal life.
Yeah, like
Especially
they don't. It is not a good image for men and women to come together through a reality show that is broadcasted. It's not the way. I think that part of our culture we will preserve, at least for the immediate present. I don't think that is appreciated by domestic audiences. Even how do you say this? Couples, TV personalities or movie artists who are couples. Sometimes it's very controversial if it's real or not, and sometimes the breakup is really bad, and then it gets published in the news, and it's like more. So it can get very messy because there will be people praying for them, praying. Okay, what does religion have to do with this? What can you do? That is the culture. So it's kind of a delicate balance. We don't mix that into reality TV. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Here in Russia, we have lots of directors and studios that are supported by the government, especially to talk about donations and funding. So the state input in movie industry is huge. What is the situation in the Philippines? Is there any state input or on the private studios?
Like government support, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We have the Film Development Council of the Philippines. And this is my opportunity to plug the website. So we have like this Film Development Council of the Philippines, and they have a channel, but you have to pay. So you get an account and you pay for it, and then you get a host of Philippine movies. So there, see, there's Genghis Khan. It is a paid movie account, something like Netflix. But if you get in, and we're hoping to cooperate with the FDCP so that we can open up an opportunity for Russian audiences to enjoy this. But that project still in development. We have to ask them if it is possible, because they have a collection of movies here, Philippine movies, that I think that will be a good starting point to appreciate more a diverse kind of Philippine films. Yeah. So, but mostly Philippine films, they also get funding abroad. Indie films, they rely on diverse sources of funding, just for the production to survive, and then they go on to win awards somewhere, and then it is the way that it is done right now. Any other questions? I'm so glad that I'm able to answer so many questions. And I'm so happy that you're also very interested about Philippine films. There's just really too much to unload. So please take it easy about appreciating Philippine films. Maybe choose one or two. And for the lady who asked about TV series, please, pangako sa'yo, it's on YouTube. Yeah, try to get into it because it will be worth your time.
And we will be waiting for the links that you promised to send to us and to the Southeast Asian Club.
Yes.
The links to the films so that
I
the
think we'll
audience
prepare
will
some material, maybe some long read or stuff like that with the links.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And we'll release it first in English. We'll share it in English, but eventually we hope to be able to give it also in Russian. And I hope that this lecture has been inspiring for you to start your journey on Philippine films. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Center of Eastern Literatures of the Russian State Library. Thank you very much for hosting this event. Thank you very much, Ms. Catherine. Thank you to the Philippine Embassy for sharing your knowledge, your love, and your friendship with the students, staff of the Institute of Asian and African Studies and its audience and friends. Thank you very much for the Southeast Asian Club of this institute, and we hope to have more such interesting and insightful events in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.